Additional weather information can be found online at weather.gov/CHS. The local time is 8:37 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. These are the 8 p.m. weather reports from around the area. At the Charleston Air Force Base and International Airport, it was partly cloudy. The temperature was 74 degrees, the dew point was 65. The relative humidity 73%. The wind was north at 3 miles an hour. The pressure was 30.04 inches and rising. Along Riley Waterfront Park, in downtown Charleston, the temperature was 74 degrees, the dew point was 69. The relative humidity 84%. The wind was variable at 3 miles an hour. At Panopolis Point on Lake Moultrie, the temperature was 75 degrees. The wind was variable at 3 miles an hour. Throughout the region, skies ranged from clear to partly cloudy. It was 70 at Walterboro, 70 at Moncks Corner, 73 at Myrtle Beach, 72 at Florence, and 74 at Orangeburg. Columbia reported 76, Marine Corps Air Station Beaufort reported 75, Hilton Head Airport reported 70, and Savannah reported 74. And now, here are some regional marine observations. The Charleston Harbor tide gauge reported east winds at 4 knots gusting to 5 knots. The air temperature was 73, and the water temperature was 76. At Folly Beach, the air temperature was 74. The wind was east at 5 knots gusting to 5 knots. At the Capers nearshore buoy, the air temperature was 74. The wind was east at 4 knots gusting to 8 knots. The Frick nearshore buoy reported east winds at 4 knots. The air temperature was 74. The Fort Pulaski tide gauge reported southeast winds at 7 knots gusting to 8 knots. The air temperature was 74, and the water temperature was 76. At the Edisto buoy, located 41 nautical miles southeast of Charleston, winds were northeast at 12 knots gusting to 16 knots. The air temperature was 75. Water temperature was 79. The wave height was 4 feet, with a period of 14 seconds. The buoy at Gray's Reef, located 40 nautical miles southeast of Savannah, reported northeast winds at 12 knots gusting to 16 knots. The wave height was 5 feet, with a period of 14 seconds. At Frying Pan Shoals, winds were north at 14 knots gusting to 16 knots. The wave height was 4 feet, with a period of 13 seconds. The following is a coastal hazard message. Coastal flood advisory remains in effect until 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time this evening. What? Up to 1 foot of inundation above ground level expected along shorelines and tidal waterways. Tide levels are expected to reach 7.7 to 7.9 feet mean lower low water in Charleston Harbor. Where? Coastal Colleton and Charleston counties. When? Until 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time this evening. Impacts. This will result in some roads becoming impassable and minor flooding of properties. Additional details. High tide will occur around 8:51 p.m. today in Charleston Harbor. Saltwater inundation will be possible 1 to 2 hours before and after high tide. If travel is required, allow extra time as some roads may be closed. Do not drive around barricades or through water of unknown depth. Take the necessary actions to protect flood-prone property. Visit water.weather.gov for additional water level and flood impact information. Here is the latest tropical cyclone advisory from the National Hurricane Center. At 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the center of Tropical Storm Felipe was located near latitude 18.0 north, longitude 55.9 west. Felipe is moving toward the west-southwest near 5 miles an hour, and this motion is expected to continue through Saturday night. A gradual turn toward the west and northwest is forecast Sunday and Sunday night. Maximum sustained winds are near 50 miles an hour with higher gusts. Gradual strengthening is forecast during the next few days. Tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 140 miles from the center. The estimated minimum central pressure is 1,002 millibars. Here is the latest tropical cyclone advisory from the National Hurricane Center. At 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the center of Tropical Storm Reno was located near latitude 20.0 north, longitude 47.8 west. Rena is moving toward the northwest near 9 miles an hour. A slightly faster northwestward motion is forecast during the next couple of days, followed by a turn toward the north-northwest by Monday. Maximum sustained winds are near 45 miles an hour with higher gusts. Little change in strength is forecast during the next day or so, followed by gradual weakening through early next week. Tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 140 miles from the center. The estimated minimum central pressure is 1,003 millibars. Here is the latest ground-level ozone forecast provided by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. The ground-level ozone forecast for Charleston, Berkeley and Dorchester counties, including the Charleston metropolitan area, for Saturday is 32 or code green. This falls in the good category. A code green forecast means no health effects are expected. Here is the latest tropical weather outlook issued by the National Hurricane Center. For the North Atlantic, Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico, active systems, the National Hurricane Center is issuing advisories on Tropical Storm Felipe, located several hundred miles east of the northern Leeward Islands, and on Tropical Storm Rena, located over the central tropical Atlantic. Tropical cyclone formation is not expected during the next 7 days. Synopsis for the coastal waters of South Coastal South Carolina and North Coastal Georgia. A wedge of high pressure will remain across the area into at least the middle of next week, while a broad trough of low pressure persists well offshore. Here is the coastal waters forecast. For Charleston Harbor. For tonight, east winds 5 to 10 knots, becoming northeast late this evening. For Saturday, northeast winds 5 to 10 knots. For Saturday night, northeast winds 5 to 10 knots. For Sunday, northeast winds 10 to 15 knots. For Sunday night, northeast winds 10 knots. For Monday, northeast winds 10 to 15 knots with gusts to 20 knots. For Monday night, northeast winds 10 to 15 knots. Tuesday, northeast winds 10 to 15 knots. Tuesday night, northeast winds 10 to 15 knots. Wednesday, northeast winds 10 knots. And for Wednesday night, northeast winds 10 knots. Unless otherwise noted, waves 1 foot or less. Charleston Harbor water temperature 76 degrees. Here is the coastal waters forecast. From South Santee River to Edisto Beach out 20 nautical miles. For tonight, northeast winds 10 to 15 knots. Seas 3 to 4 feet. For Saturday, northeast winds 10 to 15 knots with gusts to 20 knots. Seas 3 to 4 feet. For Saturday night, northeast winds 10 to 15 knots. Seas 3 to 4 feet, building to 4 to 5 feet after midnight. For Sunday, northeast winds 15 to 20 knots. Seas 4 to 5 feet. For Sunday night, northeast winds 10 to 15 knots, increasing to 15 to 20 knots after midnight. Seas 4 to 5 feet. For Monday, northeast winds 15 to 20 knots with gusts to 25 knots. Seas 4 to 5 feet. For Monday night, northeast winds 15 to 20 knots with gusts to 25 knots. Seas 4 to 5 feet, building to 4 to 6 feet after midnight. Tuesday, northeast winds 15 to 20 knots. Seas 4 to 6 feet. Tuesday night, northeast winds 15 knots. Seas 4 to 6 feet. A slight chance of showers. Wednesday, northeast winds 15 knots. Seas 5 to 6 feet. A slight chance of showers. And for Wednesday night, northeast winds 10 to 15 knots. Seas 4 to 6 feet. A slight chance of showers. You're listening to NOAA weather radio station KHB29 in Charleston, the voice of the National Weather Service. The station proudly serves the low country of South Carolina, including the Charleston metropolitan area. Additional weather information can be found online at weather.gov/CHS. The local time is 8:47 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. These are the 8 p.m. weather reports.